Hi guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Thanks for joining us again. We'd like to thank all the people that have subscribed to our videos and who are commenting with their great questions. We are definitely reading them. Michael's been doing a lot of responding. Yes, just please continue to comment, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So Michael and I, maybe from our previous video, you know that we have a twin flame relationship, and one of the things that we experience often are, for example, I will have a realization or a dream, and then Michael, maybe at the same time or a little bit later or before, will receive some of the same information. So on August 3rd, I had a realization as I was here at home that I had this feeling that I could connect to myself in the fifth dimension. And it made me think that, wow, I'm already living in the fifth dimension. There's some aspect of myself that's already living in the fifth dimension. So what if I could go into that perspective and look at this 3D life from the fifth dimension perspective, from that consciousness? And I didn't really quite have the articulation. I feel things energetically a lot. So I usually need to take time to articulate those things. And so I hadn't mentioned it to Michael. And so he got a download the next morning or night, I don't know when it was, about the same thing.
Surprise.
Yeah. Although it shouldn't be for us, right?
Not a surprise.
But sometimes still
happens all the time. Yeah.
So he's going to elaborate more on that perspective and how we make this shift. And so that's probably going to be all the talking I'm going to be doing. But I'm going to sit here and just hold space and energy for all of us as we're transitioning, and for Michael to really be able to connect. And so I'm going to do that while he gives
Talks.
this
She's used to
message.
listening to me talk all the time.
Yeah, so
If
you're wondering,
I have lots of words.
That's what I'm doing.
So, what's been great about this whole experience is that seeing the relevance of the information that I hear from the Spirit, and seeing that it's relevant to other people as well. This is so very real and so very tangible to me specifically, and I know to Jean as well. We talk about this all the time, and this is literally the topic of our discussion every time we talk about or have a second in between living. And a lot of the questions that I'm getting back on some of the videos, both from Allison's video of my QHHT and the other QHHT session, and then our own videos and just people we know, is when does the ascension happen? Exactly, like there's a specific time, and how can we make it happen sooner, that sort of a thing. And I think those are the things I wanted to take to the Spirit, because there was something within me, that I think when you throw those things out, then you have like a little sense and a feeling of what the answers might be, or at least what the Spirit's take on that question might be. And then, I really just love to explore that and take that to the Spirit. And so it was the next morning after, actually I hadn't heard about what Gina had said. It was August 4th at 3 or 4 in the morning. Several of the videos I've heard have talked about being able to sleep for 3 or 4 hours at night, and then waking up just can't sleep anymore, And this stuff happens to me all the time, and I wish I could sleep a little bit, but it's not worth even trying. So I just get up and I write down and I listen and listening to some videos, and almost always end up turning them off and listening to the Spirit, which is infinitely more interesting because they're relevant. So the question that I put out to the Spirit is, when do we ascend, and how can I move into that now? And that was really the biggest, the question that I had in looking at this. And then I thought about it a little bit, and there's a little preface I wanted to put to the answer, because just given a context that we are multidimensional beings as it is right now. We might have our consciousness here in the third dimension, but we're actually have an infinite number of dimensions above, and if we're connected to Source, there's who knows what dimension you could consider Source has. But if it reaches all the way down to the third dimension, we exist in every one of those dimensions in higher aspects of who we are, all the way back to Source, which is our origin and ultimately our destination. But all the way down here in the third dimension is the consciousness that we're all communicating in, and we're familiar with in this incarnation of our life. So I don't know about you guys, but there's so many times when I'll have a dream at night, and I believe it in the evenings that many times our spirits can leave our bodies, and we can hear amazing fifth dimensional, higher dimensional perspectives and truths, and we might talk to Source, and we might, who knows what might happen, visit some amazing places, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. I just can't wait. And knowing that we're asleep, the way I can't wait to bring this back and remember that. I really want to remember what you said, and it's gone, and it happens all the time, right? I know something amazing happened, but I have no idea what it was. I can't remember. I can't put my finger on it. I know that happens to you, because it happens to us all the time. And my understanding of that is that that when we come back into the third dimensional mind, that there's a washing that takes place, and that's an agreement that we've made to live in the third dimension. There's a washing that takes place of our consciousness, just the same as when we were born. We're born and incarnated into these bodies. We took a vow, if you will, to amnesia, that we've forgotten who we are, the amazing deities that we are, and the amazing supernatural powers that we have, and what we're even meant to be here for. I mean, the purposes of our lives and all that. And the reason, is my understanding, is that it's only our hearts that are ultimately going to lead us back home. Because that was the whole challenge of this incarnation, this thing that we call life and living in the third dimension. So that there would be no other divine influence that was allowed to interfere in our walk home. I think the challenge was to see if we could make it back home with nothing but our hearts. There was going to be no other road signs or anything that said, this is the way, walk in it, do this, and we had to find our way back home. It's just like Star Trek. It talks always about the prime directive, and I love that's also true, and I found it to be more and more true the more I hear about spirituality. And this is the other thing that I wanted to preface this with. I imagine the beginning of time, we're all Source. We're all just the origin of this all, and we're really united as this one consciousness. But we're sitting around talking as if we're a group. All the different aspects and facets of God, going, wow, what? How can we experience who we are and what we are, and how can we know what we're not? And find a way to really challenge that, and really feel out who we are, and what love looks like, and what we look like. And you know what? This is crazy. Somebody comes with this harebrained idea. Let's go all the way down to the third dimension. Like, oh my, no way. Dude, you're crazy. That's no way. Nobody would ever do that. These are going to be the crazy people. These are the ones, the wild ones, the mavericks. They're going to be the ones. They'll go down there. I mean, it might not work out. Let's just be honest about it. It might not work out. They might get lost, but we'll collect them. We'll bring them back home eventually, But we just like to see what this would be like if they can go all the way down to the third dimension and find their way back home. Just crazy. Let's just see what happens, And so here we are, all the crazy people, you and I, and us as well. So if we are these multidimensional beings, I think the thing that we're kind of realizing is that we have higher aspects, and as we are in this third dimension, this crazy world that we are, we're making our way home, right? And that's the beautiful thing about the Ascension, that somehow our hearts did it. They heard the call home, and without any direct divine intervention, we heard that love was the ultimate truth, and somehow love is what's going to take us back home. So the other truth about this is that all the other forms of life that we know of, and speaking particularly in nature, also have higher dimensional realities. And so I'm thinking about plants and animals, the sky, the oceans, and the earth itself. Gaia itself exist in higher dimensions, but those are in more beautiful and uncontaminated states of being. So I would think of the new heaven and new earth, as I saw in my QHHT, was our earth. It was, but it was just beautiful, and it was clean, and there was no pollution, and they weren't harvesting whales and dumping nuclear waste in the ground and all this. That it was beautiful. So too, if we exist in higher dimensions, our consciousness is here in the third dimension. So here's the question: how do we move our consciousness then? If our desire is to move to higher dimensions, how do we move our consciousness from the third dimension to, let's say, the fifth dimension? Is where, if that's our goal at this particular juncture, is to move to the fifth dimension. How do we really, all that we're doing is we're moving our consciousness from the third to the fifth dimension. And so as I began to kind of cook that down, that's really what it really comes right down to. And I know this for sure. The thing that holds us in the third dimension is this: it's our mind. Our mind holds us here. Our consensual reality that we live in the third dimension is what holds us in the third dimension. Well, I know for sure that we exist in the higher dimension. How can I get there? How can this consciousness move to the third to the fifth dimension? If I continue to see this third D world as my only reality, I allow it to be my prison. If I continue to see the Ascension in future tense as something that's going to happen in the future, then I can never grasp it. I will never arrive. It's always going to be a future event. It's not going to happen in August 21st. It's not going to. And that's the other thing about the Spirit. Would never give us a date, because all we're going to do is we're going to sit there and wait for it and count the dates down. But it's not. It doesn't work like that. It's a resonance issue. It's level when our resonance hits the level, we're going to move out of this dimension. And you can know that is the truth. We don't have to continue to worry that we're going to attain to it, we're going to be good enough, and if we hang on long enough, we might make it. And that was the old Christian perspective that I had, that I had to perform and do the right things and know enough and be smart enough and work hard enough that maybe I would make it if I did a really good job. So as we know that we move into those other dimensions, the Ascension is not something that happens to me. Rather, it is something that changes within me. The only real moment is now, and I can only move into the fifth dimension by moving there now, by the moment that this is, by perceiving my reality there in more and more aspects of my life. In other words, I begin to take little pieces of my life, and I move my dimension, my focus, into those other dimensions. So I know that I can shift my consciousness by changing my focus. And so I began to change my focus on my belief system, my ideals, and yes, my perception to the fifth dimension. So I began to think about what that would look like in my life, and I realized that that's still an experience and still something I want to practice, I should say. Of taking more and more aspects of my life and then thinking, well, what does this look like from the fifth dimension? Or, what does this look like as I would really like it to be? So I was thinking about plants specifically. Perceive every living thing in its 5D reality. I began to perceive plants as spirit beings with consciousness, and then I'm able to communicate with them. The plants that we have here, I talk to them in the mornings, and I realize there's a consciousness there, and I can communicate with that consciousness. I thank the vegetables on my plate for giving life to my body and sustenance, and for living to love me. That's really cool. So I began ingesting love on my plate. So I really began to have a fifth dimension of what food is. In the fifth dimension, we still share food, but it's not so much for sustenance as it is for sharing love. And so I began, I mean, this is crazy, right? Began looking at my plate and being thankful for the vegetables that have given their life to feed me. And but rather than now ingesting calories and nutrients, I'm really ingesting love. Isn't that crazy? So that as we begin ingesting love into our body, we know that what we're doing is we're changing our body. What do you think is going to happen to our body when that happens? Um, this is what's very important, because as I see my food as a fifth dimensional food, it actually becomes the fifth dimension and feeds my body. And what do you think will happen to my body when it consumes fifth dimensional food? This might sound crazy, but it begins to shift my body into the fifth dimension. This is where we begin to see our light bodies come into place, because we raise the food that we ingest into the fifth dimension, and then we consume it, and it begins to actually literally change our bodies. And that's just by perception. Again, by perception. And I've seen this begin spontaneous in my life. Talk to our houseplants. I talk in with intent to our little dog. Talking to animals. Talking to the food on my plate. You can call me crazy, but I began to see these things that exist in higher dimensions in that higher dimension. I talk to the strawberry plants outside our front doors. I come in and I go out every day, and I realize that they look forward to communicating with me each time that I come in and out. And at the same time, this is another beautiful thing about it. When in my QHHT, which hopefully many of you have heard that, I remember seeing just such a beautiful world, and there was a lot of things that are unlovely about our world that we're not in that world. And so this other thing we get to do. We get to create the fifth dimension with the beautiful things and the dreams that we know that exist there, and we get to leave some stuff out of that fifth dimension. So at the same time, I leave out the things in the third dimension that do not exist in the fifth dimension. Yeah, I'm sure you got a whole list yourself, but here's my list. Rush hour traffic, our greedy capitalistic economy, bigotry, the pollution and misuse of our planet, toxic garbage dumps, racism, sexism, all of the intolerance with other sexual minorities and other sexual genders, I guess, or perspectives on that. I know that these things do not exist in the fifth dimension, and I intentionally leave them out of my consciousness as I build my mental picture of what the fifth dimension is. I hope that makes sense to you. I allow my resonance to rise and eventually match the resonance of the fifth dimensional world. When it does, we can intentionally ascend and make it our home. We begin to move into that fifth dimension because that's the reality that we live, and we let go of more and more of what holds us to the third dimension. Our bodies will come with us, and they will become the light bodies that move out of the third dimensional view, so that they will disappear, literally disappear to the third dimension. All we've done is we've switched dimensions, but our light bodies then, the move and the density of this third dimension is released, and we actually literally move into the fifth dimension and live there. There's another kind of a cool story that I had about this that I wanted to share. I was thinking about some of the gifts of the fifth dimension, and one of them that I'm really excited about is teleportation. I can't wait for that. So I was in rush hour traffic heading back from meeting someone, driving through rush hour traffic on a hot day, and it's like, wow, this is really a bummer. I was thinking, wow, how great is that going to be in the fifth dimension when teleportation is my reality, and I could literally go from meeting my friend to home just like that. That'd be just great, and I could just fly over all these cars and around the corner. I wouldn't have to wait for stoplights, and I would just be home. And I'd take off my shoes, and I would go sit down on the couch, and my kids would come up on my lap, and it was nice and cool in here, and I'd get myself an iced tea, and I would just talk about their day, and I went on and had this little conversation with them, and then somebody stopped in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that's right, we're driving. We're driving. Like, wow, but I missed out on a few minutes of rush hour traffic there all of a sudden. Apparently, teleportation does exist, because I was missed out on that moment, those moments that I was at home, sitting on the couch with my kids. So it's really beautiful. We allow our fifth dimensional perspectives to just take us piece by piece to the new world and live live in those places, and eventually I would realize that I wouldn't even come back to my truck. I would just stay home, right? And I wouldn't need to live in the third dimension. It's just piece by piece, guys. As we move into these fifth dimensional perspectives, it's piece by piece until every aspect of our life is living there. It's not a secret. It's not magic or anything. It's just something that we're just changing our focus and our perception, and we get to the place where actually every piece and aspect of our life is living in the fifth dimension. That's where a vibrational match is there. It's no longer in the third D. I've cut all the cords. I have nothing else to let go of here, and that's my reality. And that's when we move there. I know these energy waves are washing over us. One of the things we're looking forward to in August is the eclipse and all these crazy things that we feel. Gina and I specifically feel, and find it hard to sleep at night. And there's this constant churning is the word we use, but it's kind of an almost sometimes an anxious feeling, a burning in our chest, restlessness in our bodies. It makes it difficult to sleep and to even really desire to do anything in the 3D, because all you want to do is you just want to find a way to integrate this into your body and being able to almost like ride the wave of this amazing wave of energy. So as those are coming, they're not the thing that's going to lift us in the fifth dimension. It's not going to happen to us from the outside, but it's erasing what these waves are doing. And this is what I'm purposing in my own life, is I'm allowing those waves to come and begin to wash the fifth dimension into my life and into my thinking, and at the same time releasing the third dimension and the perspectives that have held us in this world. So here's the truth of the whole thing. Our reality is within us. The fifth dimension lives within you. It doesn't exist outside of you. It never has. It always has lived within us. As God, we're the source, and we're created in the image of God. Everything that we have and everything we've ever desired is here. It really is. The only way to switch dimensions is to shift our consciousness. The key is moving out of my consciousness from the third to the fifth dimension to focus on the fifth until I no longer match the third dimensional perspective, and we can finally let it go for good. We're not waiting for the ascension. We cannot hope that we're good enough or we're going to earn our right to ascend, or we'll totally miss the point. We are deeply loved, and we are never judged by anything or anyone other than ourselves. The Spirit is simply calling for us to return home from this third dimension and move back up the ladder and begin to find our way back home. All we really need to do is to let it go and reach out for our dreams and desires. They all exist in the fifth dimension. So I saved this last piece of this for the end, because this really means so much to me. As we were talking about earlier, how we moved from the higher dimension of God, source, saying, hey, we're going to go all the way down to the third dimension. It's going to be crazy. But in order to live in that third dimension, there needed to be a symbiotic partnership with the earth and with the plants and with the animals, and we're all in this together, ultimately making it our way home. Gaia would hold this third dimensional experience here with us, because but as the earth gave itself and its resources to us as humans, we plundered her resources without respect for the delicate balance. We polluted the very waters we drank, and we without respect for the earth. And yet the earth did its best to clean itself and did not resist. She continued to give to us without hesitation. But we realize that as we free ourselves from the lower dimensions and we finally climb the ladder out of the third dimensions, we are also setting our beloved planet free. Many have rightfully lamented the destruction and the raping of our planet and wondered how we could ever clean up the nuclear waste and the mercury in our oceans and the damaged ozone layer. But if our bodies move into a higher light body as we transcend, what do you think will happen to the third dimension, Earth? Have you ever considered that? What will happen when the last souls tap out? Hey, I'm out of here. And we flip the lights off as we leave the third dimension for good. Friends, we will have done the impossible. We will have released the earth from her responsibility to support this third dimension any longer, the old Earth will cease to exist, and the new world will become our reality, our home for good. The pollution and destruction of our planet will cease to exist. Just like our old bodies and our old perspectives of fear, and the entire third dimensional prison, the plants, the animals will all be set free to move into the fifth dimension with us. We'll all be in our new home together. Again, in a new pristine Earth, in new bodies, but with the wisdom of all these many Earth incarnations, and we will live in peace and love and mutual respect. In other words, we've set our planet free. And all the pain and any of the things that we look on with regret, and this whole Earth can be let go of and completely forgiven because they're already forgotten. As we move into the fifth dimension, it's just an amazing story that we wrote a long time ago, and we have the privilege of living out the last chapters here together. So please feel free to ask us any more questions about this. I'll happily take this to the Spirit and we can continue to discuss this, but I'm so excited about this information.
Yeah. And one last question that came to me that I kind of wanted to save for the end was, if you were living in the 5D right now, what would you do? How would you live? How would you eat? How would you parent? How would you be?
Right.
So...
And those are answers. Those are the questions that only you can answer,
right.
Because it's your dreams that are coming true in the fifth dimension, and my dreams from my reality, they're coming true in the fifth dimension. We build it ourselves.
Much love to you guys. Thanks for joining in, and we look forward to
walk this journey with you.
Yes.
And see y'all there.